Hi, this is my review for Nona Me, written by Clare Atkins. Some students do not often think about Indigenous life, people, and cultures, and this can be due to many reasons, such as not much information or exposure to Aboriginal culture. This story invites students to think about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people through the perspective of a Year 9 Indigenous student, Rosie, who grew up living in a remote Indigenous community and was adopted into an Indigenous family. After moving away, she finds herself at a school where she is reunited with people from her past. However, her current lifestyle is much more different than it was growing up, and she is often required to make choices between her friends and her culture. The author does a fantastic job in making you feel like a high school teenager when you read this book. How she describes the school environment, the classes, or the friendship groups is descriptive yet simple. Or even the way Rosie speaks. For example, I text Nick, Nick texts me, just stuff like that. What are you doing now? This simple sentence already suggests what her character might be like, a character which students might connect with or find similarities. This book is uniquely structured and written in a way that it takes place in two different time frames, told through Rosie, in 1996 and the end of 2007. This style of writing enables students to understand Rosie's character development over a large time frame and understand why she makes the choices she does, which I'll go into more detail later. This book makes explicit mention to the national apology given by Kevin Rudd on the 13th of February 2008. Including this event into her story enables students to consider the thoughts of Indigenous people living in Arnhem Land, which is where the book takes place in, and the impact it had on their lives, community, and connection to land. This intentional inclusion of the apology enables students to consider the history and the real-life events that occurred within their own country and exposes them to the fact whether students knew them or not. Aside from getting students to think about the Aboriginal culture, this book does an excellent job at learning about character development and relationships with other characters. Rosie, the main character, has unique bonds with different characters, all whom are important and affect her life. However, there is conflict between these characters, which puts Rosie in difficult situations at times. What may seem like a right decision at the time may have negative ongoing consequences. Students are invited to think like Rosie, be in her shoes, and consider the choices Rosie makes throughout the books. Or you could perhaps suggest to students what Rosie could do to make the situation better in your teaching lesson. Rosie makes many tough choices in the book, which makes you really feel for her. You feel for her pain when she cannot cope, and you feel her joy when she is having fun. I'm sure all students, both male and female, Indigenous and non, will be able to make some connection to her school or home experience, which is essential in getting students to pick up that book and read. Because the book explores two time frames, you can really see her growth as a child to a teenager. You, along with students, can really make that connection to either her roots and culture or her school life, and you begin to empathize with her. That really hooked me in. The way it made me feel what it made me feel like to be in high school again and deal with issues that now seem not as dramatic. I found myself connecting more with her younger self, her roots and Indigenous culture, which, reflecting on it, seems to be a bigger focus in my life. Who am I as opposed to what am I? This question and more are sparked by the way Clare Atkins ingeniously writes and will guarantee to spark the interest and curiosity of students. A key strength of Nona Me is inviting students, both Indigenous and non, to explore a remote Indigenous culture. She goes into detail of the location, the people, the cultural practices, and much more, which not only adds to the depth of the story, but it also informs the reader about facts of Indigenous culture. For example, the national apology is mentioned in the novel, the events leading to it and after it. This can prompt students to do further exploration of the time, how it affected Indigenous people, and what that had and how that affected us in today's time. Or another example is dissecting the names of the places or people in the story, such as Yongle or Arnhem Land, and using online resources to find out more information. I know I was guilty of searching up unfamiliar places I found in the book. A weakness that, if approached respectively, can be turned into another learning topic is the racism expressed by characters or groups of people in this book. As a mature reader, I understood the racial slurs or descriptions used for the students. I understood the racial slurs or descriptions, but for students, especially Indigenous students, can be quite confronting. To understand the story and the text, the reader needs to understand why the author has chosen to use specific vocabulary to describe a scene or person. Exploring author's purpose with students will develop them to be comprehensive readers. Another lesson involving the racism within Nona Me could be to explore the views of both Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples at the time. Extending that activity, students could explore the impact it had on today's Indigenous Australians by researching other significant events that have occurred in Australian history, such as the Mabo case or the Stolen Generations. In conclusion, this book is a fantastic read for adults and students and is a great learning resource to develop middle year students' literacy skills. In addition, it can be used as a reference to explore some Indigenous cultures, people, and perspectives.